Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Catch, Hook, and Shoot. My name is Tom. I am your host, and today is Sunday, March 31st, 2019, right at the beginning of WrestleMania week here, about to start in a couple of days. I want to thank everybody for listening and subscribing on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Twitch, and wherever you find podcasts. And thanks again to everyone who's following on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. Just search Catch, Hook, Shoot. You'll be able to find me there. And as always, if you want to shoot me an email, it's catchhookshoot@gmail.com. So let's start running down what's been going on for the last week in pro wrestling here on Raw. Had kind of an odd choice of a match. Had a beat the clock challenge with Ronda Rousey, Becky Lynch, and Charlotte going up against the members of the Riot Squad, which it's really the first time we've seen the Riot Squad in a few weeks. I was kind of starting to wonder what had happened to them. Yeah, normally with the Beat the Clock Challenge type matches, there's usually some kind of incentive, some kind of prize, so to speak, at the end, whether it's number one contendership or like the 30th entrant in the Royal Rumble or something along those lines. There really wasn't or didn't appear to be too much of a point to it other than, bragging rights. That's really about it. Anyway, the winner of that Beat the Clock Challenge was Becky Lynch. Beat out Ronda Rousey's time by just a few seconds. And I guess this coming week, tomorrow, actually on Raw, it's going to be a six-woman tag team match, the Riot Squad versus Ronda, Becky, and Charlotte. And if anyone on the Ronda, Becky, and Charlotte team turns on their team, causes them to lose the match or anything like that, they will be taken out of the WrestleMania main event. So they're, there's a stipulation to that, but the Beat the Clock Challenge really didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. But it was entertaining. I mean, it was good to see the Riot Squad back on TV, even if it was brief as it was. Roman Reigns, as expected, accepted Drew McIntyre's challenge for WrestleMania, so that's a match that we'll be seeing. Dean Ambrose had another match with Drew McIntyre this past Monday, this time a last man standing match with McIntyre coming out the winner in that one. Kurt Angle had another match on his farewell tour, this time against Samoa Joe. Angle was victorious in that one. Ricochet and Aleister Black managed to defeat the Revival. I think it's at least the second time they've beaten them in non-title matches, so this coming week, Ricochet and Aleister Black actually have a tag team title match the last Monday Night Raw before WrestleMania, so we'll see what happens with that. Ricochet and Aleister Black could be going into WrestleMania as champions, but I wouldn't count on it. I expect the Revival to hold on to the titles. They have not announced a Raw tag team title match yet. If they're going to, obviously it's going to happen tomorrow, so we'll see how that goes. Rumors are there are going to be at least 3 more matches added to the WrestleMania card, 2 of those being for the Raw and SmackDown tag team titles, and then the third would be a match for John Cena. What I read wasn't real specific as far as what the Cena match is going to be, other than to say it is not going to be against Kurt Angle. I guess Angle and Corbin is the set match for WrestleMania. So, it is what it is. But the running time for WrestleMania, if you go by the scheduling on the WWE Network, looks to be about 7.5 hours from the beginning of the pre-show, the kickoff show, through the main card of WrestleMania. So here in Chicago, that would be from about 4 p.m., the start of the kickoff show, till about 11:30. And on the East Coast, of course, that would be 5 p.m. till about 12:30 a.m. So it's going to be a long day, folks. Hope some of you at least have the next day off of work, because it's going to be a late night, it looks like. It was also announced this week that Joan Jett is going to be playing Ronda Rousey's theme song live at WrestleMania, so that should make for a pretty cool entrance for Ronda. Also on Raw, it was made official that Triple H versus Batista would be for Triple H's career. If Triple H loses, then he has to retire. So have to see how that one plays out. I don't know if Triple H is ready to step away from the ring completely. Obviously, if he loses a match, then, I guess he is. So, also with Miz and Shane at WrestleMania, it was announced on SmackDown that will be a Falls Count Anywhere match. That should be interesting. I expect that one to be a good match. Looks like quite a few people are sour on that. I think it's just because it's Shane McMahon, and, Shane... I think a lot of people look at it as, Shane doesn't need to be on the WrestleMania card, but again, it is what it is. It's already set. It's not going anywhere now. So just enjoy it, because Shane always puts on a great show in there. Kind of a surprise on SmackDown this week. Charlotte is your new SmackDown Women's Champion. So, I'm curious to see how the SmackDown Women's title is going to play into that main event at WrestleMania. Will it be both belts on the line? Will it be a unification match? Will it be, whoever gets pinned? Excuse me, whoever gets pinned loses their belt. So, say if Charlotte pins Ronda Rousey, she is a dual champion, or vice versa. Or if Becky pins Charlotte, she's a SmackDown champion. If she pins Ronda, she's the Raw champion. Not really sure. I'm sure we'll find out some more about that tomorrow and Tuesday on Raw and SmackDown as to how they're going to handle that one. Was a interesting rumor floating around earlier this week that Goldust had been released from his WWE contract. Of course, he did come online later that same day and said no, he is still under contract, and that's why they're called rumors, folks. Wait. That's why I always say wait and hear it directly from the source. That's why anytime I talk about something like this, I will say it over and over again. It's a rumor, nothing confirmed. And this is, a case where the rumor was basically a complete falsehood. So Goldust still under contract to WWE. Hasn't been on TV in a while, so we'll have to, see what the future holds for him. But as of right now, he is still a WWE contracted performer. Some Lucha Underground news that we haven't had in quite a while. Apparently the lawsuit that they were dealing with some of their talent has been settled. So Joey Ryan, King Cuerno, Ivelisse, and Cobra Moon have all been released from their Lucha Underground contracts. Joey Ryan most likely I would think would go to AEW. King Cuerno, supposedly there's been a lot of interest from WWE in him, so we could see him in NXT sometime in the near future. Ivelisse, of course, has been very vocal about wanting to get out of that contract so that she can work elsewhere, so hopefully we'll see her pop up somewhere sometime soon. And Cobra Moon, she's been on the WoW Women of Wrestling show a little bit, so we'll have to wait and see where she pops up as well. It's definitely going to give her a little more freedom, give all of them a little more freedom as far as where they're able to work. And the speculation is that Lucha Underground is pretty much done. I don't think we're going to see a season 5, which is kind of sad. Lucha Underground to me was very entertaining. I liked it a lot. So if they are going to try to put on season 5, I'm thinking they'd have to completely revamp their roster and probably change up how they write their contracts if they want to attract any talent. But as of right now, it's not looking real good for the future of Lucha Underground. Some Impact news from this week. Excuse me a second here. Alright, sorry about that. Anyway, some Impact news from this week. It looks like Allie has finished up her time with Impact Wrestling. For those of you that saw Impact this past Friday, we saw Rosemary and Kiera Hogan go into the undead realm looking for Allie's soul, and there had been some not really hints, but some things said over the last couple weeks between James Mitchell and Rosemary that she would have to talk to the boss, so to speak, and that ended up being Kevin Sullivan, which I thought was a pretty cool little surprise. And Allie's character basically was killed by Su Yung in the undead realm, so that kind of wrapped up Allie's whole story in Impact Wrestling, and now she will be moving on to AEW, as they announced a couple weeks ago that she had signed. So I'm thinking she's probably going to go back to her previous ring name, which was Cherry Bomb, when she moves to AEW. We'll have to see how that all plays out. Another free agent out on the market right now, Tennille Dashwood, formerly known as Emma in WWE, I guess has finished up her contract with Ring of Honor. She posted on social media that she is a free agent, so I'm sure she'll land somewhere on a prominent role in somebody's women's division, because she is a great talent. So whether that's back with WWE or Impact or AEW, or whether she just kind of plays the indies for a while, I'm sure she's got plenty of options in front of her. So what I really wanted to talk about this week, though, and this was supposed to be last week's show, unfortunately, had that little incident where the show didn't record properly, and basically it was nothing but dead air. So ended up posting a an abbreviated show last week when I had to re-record it. But I wanted to talk about the WWE Hall of Fame. There's been a lot of, especially this year with the announcement of Torrie Wilson going into the Hall of Fame. There's been a lot of kind of negative feedback about the Hall of Fame, and there's always been those out there that say it's not a real Hall of Fame, they don't have a building and this and that, which I'd love to see an actual WWE Hall of Fame somewhere, an actual building, museum type of thing with the memorabilia from the inductees, and you can display the plaques and the bronze statues of the ones that they have and things like that. The perfect place for that would be in Florida, somewhere near the Performance Center and Full Sail, where NXT is taped. But but even without that, it's still WWE honoring the people who helped build the company up to where it is. You look back, the very first inductee was Andre the Giant, and you couldn't pick anybody better to kick off your Hall of Fame than Andre the Giant. He was the biggest attraction in professional wrestling for decades. He was it. Anytime he came to a territory, people paid out a lot of money to see him. He could sell out arenas pretty much anywhere around the world, whether it was the U.S., Japan, didn't matter. And since then, I would say a good 90 to 95% of the people in the Hall of Fame are definitely deserving of it. You look back at some of the early inductees, people like Gorilla Monsoon, Bobo Brazil, Buddy Rogers, George the Animal Steele, Ernie Ladd, Captain Lou Albano. These are all people that had a big hand in building the WWE, WWF, whatever you want to call it, going back to the mid-1960s when they first started and when they first broke away from the NWA. Now, in more recent years, there's been a few inductees that people kind of scratch their heads about, like Koko B. Ware. I was a fan of Koko B. Ware, but, in WWE, he was a mid-carder. And he was a tag team wrestler and didn't, never held any titles or anything, but he was a fan favorite. And if you look at his career prior to WWE in the territories, he was a huge star in the territories. Just when he got to that national stage in WWE, it just didn't seem to translate to that WWE audience, so to speak. And then there's some other ones who never really wrestled in WWE too much, like Antonio Inoki is in the WWE Hall of Fame, Mil Mascaras, Carlos Colon, Tatsumi Fujinami, Abdullah the Butcher. These guys, yes, they're legends in wrestling, but have never really made a big impact in WWE. But I think that's kind of WWE's effort to expand the Hall of Fame to cover all of pro wrestling, or quote-unquote sports entertainment, as they like to call it. So I think that's kind of the reasoning behind that. They're acknowledging, like, yes, these people didn't wrestle for us, but their accomplishments and their contributions to this business cannot be overlooked or denied. And that makes a lot of sense, and I think adds some legitimacy to it. Another name that people kind of scratch their heads about is Rocky Johnson, The Rock's father, and I've heard people say it numerous times, well, he's only in there because of The Rock. And yeah, okay, The Rock is probably, in the top 3 biggest stars in the history of WWE, and obviously right now he is the biggest mainstream star in the world. But, Rocky Johnson, you cannot discount his contributions to the business. He was part of the first black tag team to hold the WWE Tag Team Championship, himself and Tony Atlas, and they're both Hall of Famers. So, I think that's something that needs to be recognized, and I don't see any issue with Rocky Johnson being acknowledged as a Hall of Famer. Another thing people like to kind of complain about or use as kind of a reference point to say, oh, well, it's just, it's a BS Hall of Fame, is the celebrity wing. And, people like Kid Rock and Drew Carey and Pete Rose and Refrigerator Perry and Mr. T, are WWE Hall of Famers. But, you look at somebody like Mr. T. He was in the main event of the first ever WrestleMania. He was in one of the main events of WrestleMania 2. And, that's no small accomplishment. He held his own in there both times. So, I don't see a problem acknowledging him as a celebrity contributor to WWE's legacy. Same thing with Pete Rose. I mean, how many WrestleManias did he get tombstoned by Kane? And people loved it. I mean, how many people are gonna step in there, no experience in the business, never been in a wrestling ring before, and say, yeah, okay, this 7 foot 300 pound guy can drop me on my head. So, I definitely say these spots were earned. Same thing with William Perry participating in the Battle Royal here in Chicago in WrestleMania 2, with numerous other NFL players, some of whom had no experience in wrestling before, but they got in there and they went at it with some of the best. So I don't have too much of an issue with the celebrity wing. It's acknowledging that these famous people stepped out of their world into ours and made a contribution and brought some new eyes to the WWE product, and we want to recognize them for that. And it's not like they're in the same category as Andre the Giant or Gorilla Monsoon or those type of Hall of Famers. It's a separate wing, as they call it. It's like it's just for celebrities. They have their own little niche over here, and that's where we put all the celebrities. One thing I really do like about the Hall of Fame that they've done the last couple of years is what they call the Legacy Wing, where they're kind of acknowledging some of the older superstars from like the early 20th century. And that's, like I said, that's just been here in the last couple of years, and I think again it's important to acknowledge that history. Like just last year, Stan Stasiak, Lord Alfred Hayes, El Santo, probably the top name in Mexican lucha libre, and guys like that, and who else here? Farmer Burns, Haystacks Calhoun, Ricky Dozan, the father of Japanese wrestling. I mean, you can't deny some of these people deserve to be in there. Frank Gotch, of course, first American world heavyweight champion. Back at the beginning of the 20th century, I want to say 1905 is when he won that title. George Hackenschmidt, the man that he won it from. So the Legacy Wing kind of recognizes the people that built pro wrestling from the late 19th, early 20th century. So that's definitely, to me, an important part, and that's really one of the things that I watch the Hall of Fame for. It's like, okay, who, I want to see who's going in the Legacy Wing this year, because that, to me, as somebody who studies a lot of wrestling history, I find that just really, really interesting to me. Another part of the Hall of Fame that's been just been added the last few years is the Warrior Award, and this is something that the Ultimate Warrior had asked for during his induction. Now, his original intent, he said it should be to honor people behind the scenes that for everything that they do, because they're really the ones that I think have probably the most thankless job in the world. So many people come out to see WWE and wrestling in general, and all you see are the people in the ring and the announcers and things like that. You don't see the ring crew and the camera guys and everybody who sets everything up and makes it all happen. The guys in the production truck and the people who put everything together behind the scenes to bring us the product that we see every week. And I think that is a good idea to recognize those people. Now, after the Warrior passed away and they brought this award into being, they kind of used it to recognize or shine a spotlight on like people who had like inspirational stories. Like the very first recipient was Conor Mahalik. I'm sure everybody knows who Conor was. The inspiration for Conor's cure, a young kid who had cancer and unfortunately passed away from that. But so he was the first recipient, and from there, that's kind of the line that they followed with that, is to use it present it to people who have dealt with that type of adversity and have inspired other people with their positivity and their attitude, and even overcoming that kind of adversity and things like that. So this year is the first time they're really using the Warrior Award for its original intended purpose. When the Ultimate Warrior first brought it up, they're recognizing somebody from The Office in WWE who really kind of facilitates all of their charity work and just works tirelessly and by all accounts is just beloved by everyone in WWE. So I think that's definitely, the Warrior Award to me is definitely a great, great thing. But I mean, for people to say it's not a real Hall of Fame just because it doesn't have a building, that's petty to me. And, it's WWE honoring the people that have contributed to their product over the years and have made a difference in WWE over the years. Now, I think there should be some type of voting process for the WWE Hall of Fame. I mean, whether it's let the fans vote or let the legends vote or let the current superstars vote or something. As it stands right now, it's pretty much Vince McMahon just says, okay, put these people in the Hall of Fame this year. And, I get it. Vince McMahon is the top guy at WWE, so he's got final say over everything pretty much. I think if there were some type of voting process for people going into the WWE Hall of Fame, then it would probably legitimize it a little bit more. But, until that happens, who knows, once, if Vince ever steps down, retires, or anything along those lines to where he's not directly involved with WWE, that may change, and there may be some type of voting process. It's something that could be done 100% online. WWE puts out a list of maybe 10 people, say these are the people we're considering for Hall of Fame. What do you think? Let the fans vote on it. The top 5 vote getters get in that year, and leave it at that. But that's just my own personal idea. I think the fans should have some kind of input into it, but then again, the fans may not know who certain people are that are deserving of going into the Hall of Fame, depending on how far back the careers of these people go. So it can definitely be, I guess, not a double-edged sword, but it could be, some people could get left out that way. Because if they want to put in somebody who was maybe very well known in the 70s, I'll use an example of somebody who's already in there, Nick Bockwinkel. Nick Bockwinkel was the AWA World Heavyweight Champion many times over. One of, probably, as far as a pure wrestler goes, probably one of the best ever. But if you were to put him on a ballot and present it to fans, a lot of fans right now are not going to know who Nick Bockwinkel is. And they're not going to vote for him just because I don't know who he is, unless they take the time to go back and research, maybe watch some of his matches, things like that. But, just based on the name, who is this guy? I'm not going to vote for him, so, and then somebody who deserves to be in that Hall of Fame is not going to be in. So, there's good and bad either way. But I do personally like the WWE Hall of Fame. I like that they do recognize people that have made significant contributions to the WWE and to the wrestling business in general. So that's pretty much all I can say about it. Obviously there are some omissions that have happened over the years. The most glaring one, of course, is Owen Hart, which unfortunately I don't think we're ever going to see until his children are old enough to make the decision and say, yes, please put our father in, because his wife will never allow it to happen. She's basically, won't even acknowledge the fact that he was a pro wrestler, and which is sad, because, he deserves that legacy. I think it's doing Owen a disservice. I understand she blames WWE for his death, and rightfully so. But when it comes down to it, it was an accident. They didn't murder Owen, and he passed away during a tragic accident during his ring entrance one night because the proper safety precautions weren't taken or were, overlooked too quickly, or whatever the case may be. So I understand, she puts that blame on the WWE, but there comes a time, and this is just my opinion, he deserves that recognition. His children deserve to see their father get that recognition. So hopefully one day his kids will be able to make that decision and let him be inducted. Some other ones, obviously, that have been overlooked over the years: Bam Bam Bigelow, Vader, King Kong Bundy, Miss Elizabeth, Demolition, Ivan Koloff. Ivan Koloff's one. If you were to put him on a ballot, a lot of people might not know who he is, or they may only know him from his NWA days with Nikita Koloff. But Ivan Koloff is a former WWE World Heavyweight Champion. He's the man that defeated Bruno Sammartino to end his lengthy 8-year title reign. So, I definitely think he should be in there at some point. He's one I'm not sure, I've never really heard or seen any rumors or any explanation as to why he's not in there, unless he just hasn't, doesn't want it. I mean, obviously, if they, are offered, it has to be accepted. But, yeah, I'm not sure why Ivan Koloff wouldn't be a part of the WWE Hall of Fame. Another one who, we will never see in there, and rightfully so, because of, actions outside the ring, is Chris Benoit. At the time prior to the tragedy that happened, he, in my opinion, was the best wrestler in the world. And, he was a former world heavyweight champion in WWE and WCW. And, again, at the time, he was my absolute favorite WWE superstar, and in my opinion was the best in the world in his time. But the tragedy that happened with his wife and his son just really kind of, it negates all of that. And then let me be very clear, I do not think Chris Benoit should ever go into the Hall of Fame. I'm simply mentioning it as, somebody who definitely earned it, but will never be in. Never, and rightfully so, because he may have been the best wrestler in the world in his time, but his actions, whether under his own control or not, negates anything that he did inside the ring. The best thing that right now can be said about Chris Benoit is that he's probably the reason that WWE specifically is so cautious and so just takes so seriously the issue of concussions now. And that's why Daniel Bryan was retired for a few years there. So I mean, if one positive can come out of it, it's that the issue of concussion started to be taken much more seriously in the WWE. So yeah, that's really pretty much all I got for this week. Got a huge week in wrestling coming up. As I said, we're right at the beginning of WrestleMania week here, coming up next Sunday. Now, my next episode will be dropping on Thursday this coming week, on April 4th. I'm going to be reviewing all of the big shows coming up this weekend for MLW, Impact, Ring of Honor, and New Japan Supercard at Madison Square Garden, as well as the NXT TakeOver, the Hall of Fame induction, and of course the big one of the week, the WrestleMania 35 card. I'll be breaking all that down, giving my previews, predictions, all that kind of fun stuff. So again, that will be Thursday, April 4th is when the next episode will be dropping. So until then, once again, thank you to everybody for listening and subscribing on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Twitch, and wherever you get your podcasts from. Thank you for following on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, any one of those. It's at CatchHookShoot. And email, as always, is catchhookshoot@gmail.com. So that's, as I said, that's all I've got for this week. I will talk to you guys again on Thursday, April 4th. So I hope everyone has a good week, and I'll see you guys soon.